chew this up. Facebook isn't up yet. Unless you're on YouTube. Oh. Okay, Facebook is up. LinkedIn is up. Okay, we are good. Hello and welcome to another episode on the Cultivate channel. Today we are going to talk about I forgot.
I don't know.
Consistent discipline versus gritty endurance. Now, in my mind, I think both of these things are very important. And I wanted to see which one, if you only could choose one, which one would be more important. So, on that note, I will mix them up.
Oh, we're doing this
And
live
welcome,
now. You can see that we're.
Which do what? All right, so you have consistent discipline. Oh, I wanted that one. Okay. So I would get gritty endurance. Okay. So what do we mean by this, right? Gritty endurance, or what do I mean by this, really, because I made up the terms. Gritty endurance, I think, is this thing about when things get hard, you don't stop, right? When you fall, you get back up. You have stamina to keep going. That's gritty endurance in reference to, you keep trying something different. You keep trying, and even though it gets harder, you keep at it, and you just keep at it. And in reference to consistent discipline, that's about more of the idea of like a little at a time. And in reference to over time, right? But in that discipline, right, where you're, even if you say, I'm going to take one step, every day, you'll get to the top of everything. I mean, you might freeze because that's really slow. But my point being, though, you should be able to get to the top, assuming you don't die along the way. But my point being, though, is that discipline of breaking really big things down to really small things. And when you say you're going to do something, you do it, and you are consistent. It doesn't matter if you're sick, something happens, well, within reason, right? You are consistent and you keep going. That being said, I will make the argument for grittiness. I would say for life is hard, and you just don't know. You can plan all you want, and you just know what's going to happen. If you just keep getting back up, you should be okay. The idea of that, no matter what life throws at you, you will be able to be present and be able to just keep going. I guess there's something underneath that in reference to, if you can have endurance and grittiness, that means that you know yourself enough to regulate your energy so that you can do that. You know yourself enough to know how to get yourself back up when you fall really hard. You know how to, brush it off. You know how to deal with obstacles, and you've dealt with really difficult things, and you believe in yourself in reference to, like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'll figure it out. So in some ways it's like a faith, and I think that is really, really powerful, because you just don't know what life's going to throw at you. And so being able to say, hey, I'm going to deal with this somehow, even though you don't know, is really powerful, because I really believe that when you believe in yourself, usually things turn out well in the long run, right? And so my argument would be that life is chaos and unpredictable, and gritty endurance is one of the most valuable things, because it allows you to keep going. And if you just keep showing up, most of the time, if you just show up, you kind of win, right? You don't have to do anything more than that. I mean, because most people don't show up. So, and it's really hard. Life is hard. And so, like, if you can stay, well, not positive, but if you can stay with your head in the game, whatever that means to you, and get back up when those things get hard, then you will probably be, maybe the 10%. And if you can actually keep your energy with endurance every single time you fall and get back up, I would say that's like the 1% in reference to being able to do that. I've talked a lot. What do you think?
Well, I think you kind of segued into consistency, sort of if you can stay in the game, if you can just show up, right? So
yeah,
the discipline consistency is also about just showing up as well. Like you said, one step, continuing to work on something, continuing to move forward or move in the general direction that you may want to go. So I think of it also as a game of systems, right? If you're thinking, if I say, okay, what is consistency? It's not always fun or glamorous or even, in a given day or week, we say, wow, I did this, right? It's the next step. And it's about the systems that I set up for myself to be able to fall back on or to use as in bowling, right? The bumpers, right? The bumpers for where I'm going, what I want to do, the game I'm playing, however the metaphor is I want to look at, is the system that keeps me consistent. So whether it's, I have the gym clothes ready to go and I make sure that even if it's 15 minutes, it happens, or, what we've been doing is in the morning, first thing, we do 10 minutes no matter what of exercise, and that's kind of the system that sets up despite what happens in the day. Or breaking a project down into small parts and then being able to say, okay, well, every day I'm going to at least work on this part, or by this week I'll have this part, and be able to have a level of consistency, the sort of slow and steady wins the race kind of mentality. So I think this is a difficult dichotomy, as they usually are, because I think there is a level of resilience and grit that comes with, all right, today again, I will take my one step, I'll do my one piece, and I'm in it. Even if it's a tiny bit, it matters that I am consistent today, because if I add up the 365 or maybe 4 or 3, because you can take a few breaks, right? Days of the year, that's big. Yeah. 10 minutes every day adds up to a lot.
Yeah, definitely. I think you bring up a really good point with consistency, with discipline in general. I think a lot of people think it's this thing, they're just disciplined. and like I said, I think I will say this. There is some faith in it. When I say I'm going to do something, I'll do it. I'll bend over backwards and I'll do it. Sometimes in a very maybe silly way, or you can even say stupid way, because I'm sick and I said I was going to work out every day this week, and then I still work out even though I have a temperature, right? Like, that's kind of... Okay, you can say it's stupid, but my whole thing though is I say I'm going to do it because I know I'm going to do it, and I know that no matter what I'm going to do it, and I've never not done something that I said I'm going to do to myself or anyone really, unless like someone's holding me back, like if the doctor don't want to let me leave, then I think those are the rare occasions. But I think there's a belief that I can, because if I didn't, then I wouldn't actually hold myself to that degree, because I'd be like, well, this is silly. I might not be able to do it. I might be able to do it. And so I think the hard part there is actually pushing yourself, because I've met people who do this, but they only do it for the easy things. And I think the trick is to do it with the gray stuff. Don't like go and push yourself, because that's how you injure yourself, right? But I'm thinking about the gym in this instance. But if you push it for the gray, then you really grow and you're really there. But what I was going to get at, and I think that was really great that you brought up, was the discipline. I think a lot of times people think that consistency and discipline are just this thing that you're ingrained with, or that you're giving. Yeah, you have it or you don't. And it's not true.
No.
I think it's... And they're right, it's to some degree. Maybe their parents were really good at instilling them. Or maybe they just have a type of mind that needs a lot of structure. And they kind of run on autopilot. But I think that a lot of times... Like you said, if you say you're going to go to the gym every day, the discipline is you make it... I talked to my kid about this, but you make it so that future you thanks you, right? You
make it easy for
future
exactly.
You. The gym bag's ready. You the shoes are right next to it. The socks are right next to it. You got everything you need right there, ready to go, so that there's no excuse Sometimes what I do is I really stretch it out, right? I'll put on the shoes, then I'll put on like the other the clothes, then
The
I'll like
resistance gives a space.
yeah, but I get there, you know,
Right.
and but it's interesting, you know. I think the grittiness and the endurance part is really the beginning, right? Because you got to show up, you got to get there, and maybe you're
Yes.
sick, maybe you're really tired, maybe something happened where you know you don't want to go to the gym, right? And then the consistency is actually working out, right? The discipline to actually, you know, do the workout, whatever you're doing, so that you alternating between muscle groups or whatever it is that you're doing in the gym. I think, you know, we talked about this last week in reference to who are we focusing on, and I think this is where it really helps, because I think that for the general public, I would say that gritty endurance is probably the most important thing, because most people don't show up. So if you just show up, you'll most likely do some workout, and then over time you'll get somewhere. You'll have something results
Right.
because you're showing up. You at least walking to the gym, right? Which you wouldn't have been doing otherwise, right? So just showing up so many times allows you to get that. I forgot I was reading this book about somebody. I forgot what it was, and in college they this was a long time ago, but there was a scholarship and they had read about it and they showed up. And they were supposed to interview all these people and do all this stuff, and no one showed up.
Only the one person.
And it was only him, and he didn't think he was going to be able to get it because he wasn't that, in his mind, that spectacular, right? But he got it. And part of the committee, if I remember correctly, was like, well, we might have to reschedule this. And he was like, no, you said that, you know, because the advert said like, we will announce the winner by this time. And it's like, that's false advertisement. Like, you're supposed to announce it. No one showed up. I'm here, you know, and he got it apparently. But my point being though, is so many things in life are like that. You just show up and nobody else shows up, and you kind of get it. So I think for the majority of people, just showing up to the meeting, showing up to the conference, showing up to the gym, showing up, like that is enough, and that gets you started, and that is
builds momentum.
yeah, and it's more than everyone else, right? That being said, I don't think that's our audience. Our audience are overachievers, people who are way overeducated or too, you know, they're successful, and again, but something's missing, right? And for those people, I would say it's a discipline and it's a consistency. You're probably really amazing at something you do, which is why you're successful. You're really good at studying, that's why you're so highly educated. You're really good at reading social dynamics, and that's why you got the position you want. You're really good at figuring something out that maybe is your passion, and so you make a ton of money, but there's something missing, right? And I would say that consistency and saying, hey, I'm going to try something new.
And then building a system.
And then building a system, right? Where you're like, hey, I'm not going to just be satisfied. I'm going to stop. And I guess there's some consciousness with it, right? Discipline is about being conscious of where you're at because you're looking at the bigger picture. And I think that when it comes to that I guess that bigger picture, you're in a position where you're like, hey, something's missing, and you're aware of that. And you're not going to be like, well, I'm just going to get more money, or I'm going to get more educated. No, you stop, and you're disciplined enough to be like, okay, I've reached this point. I still feel like something's missing. I'm going to change. I'm going to do something else. And maybe, you know, after getting the master's, you get a PhD. Right? Sometimes we're like, well, maybe a little bit more, but you don't get another PhD. I mean, I know people who get multiple PhDs, but that's usually not the answer if you feel like something's missing, right? You don't get, you know, more money typically is not going to make you happier once you reach a certain point with money. And I think that discipline to be like, oh, okay, I'm going to then, you know, go find a partner, and then something's still missing. And then, but continuing that discipline in reference to being conscious and being, hey, something's missing. You want to say something?
Yes, I think there's two different layers of discipline. I don't know exactly what, because you're talking about the discipline to kind of step back and acknowledge there is something missing, like this is going well. Clearly I have reached some of my goals, but there is something more. So the discipline, okay, I want to try something new. And then again, reflect after a certain, and that does take discipline. And maybe that's a system that that could be set up to say, okay, every year I'm going to reflect and see, like, did what I changed make a difference? Is there still something missing? And then there's a level of discipline of every day, right? Because that's every day continuing on the path of trying, whether it's being more social in a different way, if that's something that, you know, identify. I want to try to meet different people and expand my social circle, or try to deepen the connections that I have, then I have to make the regular effort to connect with people. It doesn't happen magically. And so putting in those, okay, every week I'm going to have a coffee or a dinner with somebody, and then I think that is the level of discipline that's sort of, I don't want to say micro level, but kind of the regular day-to-day or week-to-week system. And then there's the bigger, broader discipline of stepping back and reflecting. And they interlink in an important way.
Definitely. No, I think you bring up a good point, that discipline, that consistency. I like to think about it like a boat, right? You can be really good at sweeping the decks, at cleaning your boat, and making sure everything, you got the barnacles off. I don't own a boat, so I have no idea. I'm just making stuff up. But like, you can be really good and have a tip-top shaped boat, right? That can weather anything, and it's super good. But you're just going wherever the ocean takes you, right?
Your direction isn't clear.
You don't have a direction, right? And so I think that, you know, when you think about discipline, there's two layers, because if you only have discipline, then you will just have more of something, right? But if you have discipline with this extra layer that we're talking about, then you reach the place you want to be, the mindset, really, because then you feel that you're not missing that thing. And again, let's be honest here, right? Well, the thing that's missing is not going to be something you can get overnight.
Oh, usually no.
I mean, I've never seen it. I'm not going to say it's never going to be there. I will say that a lot of times we have what we need to get started, or most of what we have in the best of times right in front of us. We just can't appreciate it. But it's still, that appreciation takes a ton of work. It's like saying,
to cultivate it.
Exactly. It's like saying my most important thing is having a family, and you already have a family, but you don't appreciate them. You don't even know how to appreciate them. You don't even know how to enjoy being with your family, because maybe you're scared, maybe a million different things, and it might seem like, well, I got it right in front of me, I should just be able to pick it up. But no, it is so hard to get in that mindset, to allow yourself to feel joy, for example, to feel vulnerable, for example. All those things take an enormous time and effort and space. And so that's a discipline where you go, you try something. You know, for me, like, I remember with meditation, I was like, this is dumb, I can't do it, right?
It's hard.
And it's hard, right?
Simple.
And so I had to think of it a different way. And for me, it was reflection, right? And in reference to like having this notion that is very broad and very open, and just about giving me space, right? And when you think about it that way, hey, sometimes all I'm going to do is write down crap that's on my maybe list so I can empty my brain out. Other times it's about really, you know, starting that thing that I've been putting off. Another time it's just thinking about, where am I going? What am I doing? Or how can I be a better father, a better husband, a better son? There's just so much there. And instead of being like, oh, I'm going to just think of nothing, I'm not saying all of, you know, meditation
there's
is
value
that. There's a ton of value, and there's actually a lot of nuance. But for me at that time, that's what it was. I was like, I'm going to sit here and waste time. And I think it goes back to this notion of what we believe will really tarnish or help improve how things come out. So if you believe in yourself that you can do it, then you're going to be able to do it. But that discipline, like you said, is multi-layered, where you have to know, you know, where you're going, and then you break it down. That's the consistent discipline. If you don't know your north, and I'm not saying you have to be like, this is the thing I want. You can be like, I want, and sometimes when we're really poor, I believe I grew up really poor, it's just more money, and that's okay. That's
because
like a north.
It gives you options.
Exactly.
And that's a direction.
And it does make you happier.
Right.
But that being said, I would say this, consistent discipline is amazing, and I think that what we mean by it is having an X or a north, really, and then breaking it down. But I would challenge everyone here that if they already do it, you probably do it to some extent, right?
Right, in some facet of life.
Because that's why you're successful.
Right.
But put goalposts, right? And I've talked about this in the past in reference to like goals, and how I think goals are important, but not reaching them. And that's weird. But that's because like halfway through your goal, you assess and you say, hey, that's still a good goal to have. And then, you know, 3/4 there, you go again, and you realize, hey, I can push that, or I can change that, or I can adapt that. And I think that's a good thing to have a goal. It's like saying, I know I'm going to go north because there's more gold in the north or whatever it is, right? But when you get there, you're like, hey, there's also lots of crabs, or I don't know, right? But my point being, those is you don't have to be stuck on the gold. You might get enough gold and be like, hey, I'm good with gold now, and what else do I want? And you can move and adapt and have these things. And so the goals aren't necessarily reached, but they give us direction, right? And that means you have these goalposts and you're disciplined about stopping. And sometimes it really sucks. For me, I hate the sunk cost.
Oh, yes,
and it's
hard.
just so, and I studied economics and philosophy in college, and I understood it, but I just never liked the concept, because I think if internally
It feels wasteful.
it's and I'm so efficient and so frugal and all these different things, and I'm just like, no, I can't waste it. And I'm like, I'll do something with it. And sometimes it's silly, it's like I'll make it into a pot or something. You just, it's really, you're wasting time. But that is extremely important, to be like, hey, I shouldn't have gone north, and so
And
now I'll go
change
south. But
direction.
you only went halfway there, and so that's really powerful. And that discipline of, I guess in some ways we're really focusing on the discipline of reflection, of consciousness, right?
Yes.
Of being self-aware, the consistent discipline of being aware, consciously being aware of what's going on.
And I think it takes some time to set up a system to do that, right? So for me, I resisted it a lot for a long time. I mean, not that I was not reflecting or thinking about where I wanted to go, but it was sort of in the steps that were kind of expected, right? Okay, now it's university time, now it's this time. But I think it's helpful to have, okay, now I have a structure of every week, and then to have someone to help you be accountable, to say, okay, every week, reflection. And it doesn't have to be super rigid, but there's a space for it and there's a time for it, and it can run a whole range of different topics. And then setting up, the daily or weekly systems based on what's discussed and decided. And then having the yearly, okay, this is the bigger zoom out. What is happening? What about this year? How does it feel? Does it feel like something's missing? What would I do for that? Also celebrating the wins to motivate and continue with those systems, or adjust them to improve or see what works. So I think for someone who says, well, that sounds great, but how do I do that? Of course, there's something different for everyone, but being able to try putting in some time, the layer of time to that, it was helpful for me.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to end. So I must admit, having audience in my mind really makes this easier. I wonder if we go back on other videos if we have better answers. So I would say, yeah, consistent discipline is probably more important for people who are successful and feel like something's missing, because you have to have that to be able to figure it out. And for the homework, I would say we've touched on this in reference to being self-aware, being conscious, of your situation, and being able to, look within yourself. But, I think that whether you want to call it space or reflection, I would challenge everyone, just 5 minutes. And if you already do it, do 5 minutes more. You believe me, it's amazing how much more you can get out of it. And you can talk to a lot of anyone who's tried it for a long time will tell you it is counterintuitive, but put in more time into space, into strategy building, into reflection, whatever you want to call it, but giving yourself that space. And that will help you be more disciplined and consistent with so many things that are important to you. And you will understand that and you will accept that. But you have to be consistent and disciplined with that time, with that reflection. And so I would challenge everyone 5 minutes, whether it's any time you want, the morning, wake up 5 minutes early if you really have no time, which is a separate issue, or stay up 5 minutes later. But in the morning, first thing, or at night, 5 minutes of just thinking about what's going on in your life. What are you feeling? You can just start. Sometimes feelings are one of the best ways to start. I know it also sounds
They're
wasteful,
indicators.
but they're indicators, exactly. And that's the thing. Your feelings your emotions are your body trying to communicate with you, and the more you kind of deny them, the worse things get. And so giving yourself just 5 minutes and reflecting or just sitting there and just giving yourself space, get a piece of paper, whatever it is, but being consistent and disciplined with it, and really make the commitment. Hey, I'm going to do this a week, a month. I think everyone in this channel can do a year. You're successful for a reason. You have that endurance if you so believe and choose. And so that would be my homework for you guys. Go 5 minutes and give yourself that space, reflect or strategy build or whatever you want to call it, but just give yourself space to think about what's going on, your situation, and being aware and conscious of it. You want anything?
Yeah, I think also celebrating what is working, because I think we talk about like improving and how to make it better, fix what's missing, but I think it's important to complement this system is working, this discipline is working, I'm going to keep it, and what we just talked about for this video.
No, that's a great addition. I think we talked about it, being able to be consistent really helps if you have systems that make it easier. And one of the things we talked about is being prepared, setting things up, but also like rewarding yourself.
Yes.
We're very much like animals, right? And so like, oh, this is good, you get a reward, and so you'll keep doing it, and so on and so forth. So I think that's a great thing to add. So maybe after your 5 minutes, do something, ideally something that doesn't cost money if you're budgeting, or so on and so forth, but do something that you reward yourself some way, shape, or form. I'm not going to go into it, but you can see other videos about that. Reward yourself, and like I said, comment below how it goes. If you have any ideas for the next video, please as well comment below, and we'll end it there. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay curious, stay open, and stay true to you. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Oh, and if you guys want more info, check out the Selfish Guide on Amazon or the website or all the social media.